which is geared to enrich you, mind, body, and soul, right here on 246 BajanVibesRadio.com, 12 till 3 on a Sundays AM, 7 till 10 p.m., 8 till 11 Eastern Standard Time. Don't you miss it. Feeling lazy, feeling tired.
Well, hello. How are you guys doing? Keith, welcome to the studio. Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Tommy,
Thank you. Can you hear me better now?
we'll be hearing you loud and clear.
Okay, good. I got on my computer.
We know you can do it. It's so good to see you guys this evening. You know, it's a great time of this year because we are going into the 6th month already for 2026. Could you imagine that? We're heading into the 6th month. And are you showing yourself grace on this journey? Because we all are going through different experiences, different situations in our lives at this point in time. But are you showing yourself grace and compassion? We tend to really be very hard on ourselves and not realize that we're going through a human experience. It's a human experience we all go through. But once we have the right tools to work through this human experience, we can show ourselves the grace that we need. And grace is one of the tools that we need when we are going through these different experiences. Grace is one of the tools that we need because we really need to show ourselves grace on this journey. We're all learning, we're all navigating, we're all learning on this experience. Because it's all the experiences, everything is new to us. As we go through life, each experience is going to be new for us. And we're navigating all of these experiences. So we need to really step back and show ourselves some grace and compassion because it's life. It is life. Just look at a little child, you know. A little child is now trying to walk, now trying to talk. The words is not clear, trying to stand. The child is going to fall down, but they get up back. They shake it off and they rise again, you know, because you know what? They're determined to really do what they came here to do. It's to get up and to walk. So when we look at those different stages in life, because we all came through those stages, we fall down, we rise again. So this evening, we really want you to come into this space and we really want you to know that grace is that space between the person you was and the person who you're becoming. Between that space, it calls for a lot of grace because we tend to tell ourselves, this shouldn't happen to me. Why is this happening to me? I can't do this anymore. And we start to go into this whole negative spiral. But once you surround yourself with the right kind of community, the right kind of people, they help you as well when you're going through this phase of your life. The right kind of people, because we tend to go to the negative people and they fuel the negativeness to us as well. So when we get all that negativity now, we tend to go into that whole negative spiral. And we all could testify towards that because we all went through that. But as we grow, as we evolve, we learn, we come to that self-awareness, we're able to understand, you know what? This is not for me. Where I'm going, I don't need no negativity in my life. Where I am heading, I don't need that. So there is when you pivot, you make that shift, and you shift to individuals who are going to empower you, who are going to see the beauty in you, who's going to see the potential in you, who's going to see, you know what, you can do this, girl, or you can do this, guy. So if you're listening to this podcast right now, and if you need to pivot and make that shift, it's time that you pivot and make that shift. Of course, friendships, we have deep friendships, but there come a time when those friendships, we got to let those friendships go. Because they're really not serving, they're really not watering our soil, I should say. Wow, they're not watering our soil. And we need people who's going to water our soil so we can flourish and we can bloom. Because many of us, we are in that bud state. And we need the right kind of nutrients so we can able to flourish. So if you are in that navigation period right now, find yourself the right kind of people who are going to nurture you, pour that nutrients on you so you can be the person where you're heading and where you're going. You can be that individual. But we just want to welcome Jennifer here this evening. We want to welcome Keith here this evening. And Tommy Thompson, well, you know Tommy Thompson, he's a trooper too. Tommy's the trooper as well, you know, and they're going to share their stories with us this evening and to help us as individuals. You're welcome, Jennifer. Help us individuals to understand, you know what? There is hope. And as Lady J would say, optimism.
Right.
There is hope. Whatever your experiences you're going through right now in life, there is hope. We are here this evening to let you know there is hope. There is hope. But you got to believe in yourself. Mm-hmm. And again, you got to surround yourself with the right kind of people who are going to help you to navigate where you're going. So I'm not going to take up much more time. I'm going to toss the mic now to Lady J. Lady J, take the mic.
Right. Great opening as always.
Thank you.
You know, you touch on a lot of things, which you talk about empowerment, you talk about believing in yourself, you talk about hope, you talk about optimism, and as the opening, the topic tonight, which is grace for the journey, one step, one breath. And that is why, and which is, I'm glad we're talking about this topic tonight because it is so essential out among the life we live, the hustle and the bustle and the daily living. We got to stop. We got to focus on our breath. Don't forget to pause. Don't forget to breathe. Take time for yourself. That is why we wrote the book, Self-Care is Intentional. And that is why we also wrote the book, Your Gut and You, because you focus on yourself. You take the time for you so that in order for you to live life and live life fully on your journey, showing yourself grace is one part of it as well. But you got to nourish and nurture yourself. And as you rightfully, Lady K, you spoke about the right kind of people that you surround yourself with, right? But that is also one part of it. But what are you putting in yourself? How are you feeding yourself? Are you choosing the right kind of food that's really going to nourish you and nurture you and fill you up and put you in a space that you can be strong, you can be healthy, you can have the level of vitality? Because when you're going after your goals and you're going after your dreams and you attain all of that, you want to be strong. You want to be well, you want to be able, you want to have the level of vitality, and you want to be able to feel fulfilled. And you want to be able to be in a space that you are thriving, not just surviving. So in order to attain all of that, we got to fortify ourselves and the nutritional aspect is very important, as well as the spiritual aspect. Whatever form of spirituality that you may practice, whether it's God, whatever is it for you, that you're strong and you're grounded in that, so you're able to know that you can rely on something beyond yourself, whatever that may be for you. And so everything that we all do on a daily basis, and as we be speaking about one breath, pausing is very important, because you can reflect where I am, you pause, and where do I want to be, and who am I becoming? Am I just surviving, or am I thriving? And what is it going to take for you in the middle to really thrive, to be your best, to live the best version of yourself? What does it take for you? And you have to ask yourself that question, because you want to live your all, and you want to able to empower yourself, because you Lady K, you talk about empowerment. How are you showing up? Are you showing up fully? Are you practicing self-care? That's one of the books that we wrote, so that you are able to, when you show up, you feel empowered. What is it? How is the exchange when you have a conversation, or you're in a group setting, or whatever is it that you exchange, and what energy do you come with? What level of vibration do you have when you show up in a space? How do you make people feel? And those things are very significant, because as we live life, we want to create a level of impact, and not only impact, but it must be lasting. That is why we create a program called Bloom Again, Tea Talk and Transformation. And we want to thank all of you who's signing up and coming in to chat with us, because you not only want motivation is good, change is good, but we all want to reach to a level of transformation that is lasting, so that we can continue to evolve and live our true essential self. So tonight, sit back and relax, because we got a great show for you tonight. We got Jennifer here, who's going to share her story and provide us with some wisdom, how she is really turning around and continue to achieve so many greatness in her life. We got Keith, who is here, and he's going to share his story, which is very empowering, and the impact he's creating, changing lives. And of course, we know Tommy Thompson. No, well, Tommy T, we should say. And he is someone who was journey with us from the beginning, and standing strong side and side, shoulder to shoulder with us, as we do what we do on a daily basis. So sit back, relax, choose a cup of tea, or whatever is it that beverages that you take, and journal and write in your book, or your sheet, or whatever you use to write, and take time to zoom in and focus. What is your one breath? What is your one step? And how you're showing how you're showing yourself grace on this journey. So welcome to all of you tonight. And who is going to go first and do us the honor in sharing this story? Jennifer, if you wish to kick it off, or whoever.
I think Keith should.
Okay.
I really think Keith should.
All right. Hello,
Okay, thanks,
everyone.
Keith.
I'm Keith.
Hi.
Grateful and blessed to be here. Thanks for inviting me on the show. A little bit about myself. I'm an addict who's in recovery. My life has changed dramatically. I love the topic this evening. Hope, transformation. Those are things that have happened for me to a large degree in my life, and I still have a long way to go, thinking about the kind of impact that I bring on a daily basis is, the impact I have today and the people I associate with today are dramatically different than they were as an adolescent, as a young adult. Those were things I had to learn the hard way. I was the kind of person that surrounded myself with probably not the best influences, and kind of shunned the influences that were positive. And I got the results that I got, doing that. And, it took me a long time to learn that lesson, you know. So yeah, I live here. I'm in Indiana right now. This is where I've lived most of my life. I was born into a pretty good family. Had fairly supportive parents. Great, grandparents that were just loving and kind, and it seemed like I had a close to picture perfect upbringing, until age 12. At that point, my parents got divorced and things got kind of messy, and that that was a big shock to me. I think I was kind of sheltered up into that point, and what I got out of that whole situation was, I found that it was hard for me to trust people. I didn't believe. I was told some things that were meant to protect me by my parents that I later found out were they rounded the edge off the truth quite a bit. They lied to me to make me feel better at the time, and so when I found that out, it hurt, and I didn't understand it, and so I naturally kind of withdrew, and that's when I started surrounding myself with people that were not positive in my life, and kind of headed down a path where out here in the country, there ain't a whole lot to do. There's a lot of cake parties on the weekends, drinking and smoking pot and other various substances were soon became a regular thing in my life. And I'd been introduced to God in the version of organized religion as a child, but I didn't have any kind of a personal relationship with a higher power at that point. I didn't, I felt kind of lost in my teenage years. I always felt like there was some barrier between me and the rest of the world, like I was different somehow. I always felt not very comfortable in my own skin. But as soon as I found drugs and alcohol, I felt a whole lot better about myself when I was under the influence, and pretty soon that was a regular thing, and the dominating motivator in my life for the next 20 plus years after that. On that journey, it took me to a lot of places that I should have never been. I also did a lot of things that I didn't believe in my heart were right as a result of my addiction as it continued to take hold of my life. And pretty soon, by my early 20s, my life was just jails and institutions and very little time out in the free world. It seemed like I just couldn't get this thing right. I would get out of whatever jail or institution I was in, and I would be right back in the same place where I was, surrounded by those same people. And no matter how much I wanted to change or how much I knew it wasn't going to work out any better, I didn't have the resources or take advantage of the resources to do anything about it. So that was my life from. I started getting arrested as a teenager, but I lived primarily in jails, prisons from age 23 to age 36, and, during that time, I kept, I would be in for a year, 2 years, it was a bunch of different stints, but I always got out. I always felt overwhelmed. I had lost all faith in any form of God had no spiritual health whatsoever and had absolutely no defense against the disease of addiction, and it just ran my entire life. It wasn't until at age 36, after I was sitting in jail again on a probation violation that was going to send me to prison for another 8 years, that I had a spiritual experience that took place, and my life changed that day. The only way I can explain it was, in a jail cell, there's a stainless steel mirror typically in a drunk tank. And I got up and I stood up and I was withdrawing. I felt terrible. And what reflection of myself I could see in that mirror just looked hideous and old and worn out. And I felt so bad, inside and out. And it just came over me. And I just knew that what I was looking at was not me, It just came to me like, this is not me. I don't know who this is, but this isn't my life. This isn't how it's supposed to be, And that was the beginning of my journey to recovery,
Keith, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
What part of your story was hardest to forgive yourself for?
Hardest to forgive myself for?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my son was 12 and a half years old at that time, and his mother also, she's still in active addiction. And fortunately, my mother had stepped in and taken care of my son during all those years, and I always wanted to be a good father, and I love him dearly. But I was never able to do what I wanted to do because I was so lost, and so stuck in that cycle. And, my inability to be there for my kid weighed heavily on me. There was, there's a lot of horrible things that I put my family through. The way I manipulated them, used them. They tried to be supportive and help me find recovery for some years leading up to age 36. And as time went by, those relationships got strained to where, they kind of had to buffer themselves from me, and start to put some distance in there because, I wore them out, after 20 something years, I'd wore out. Their hope for me was fading, like they had no reason to believe that anything was ever going to change at that point. It was a very low, very lonely, sad place to be. And the only way I knew how to fix it up to that point was to continue to use in order to run from reality, and after that day, it, as crazy as it sounds, I became willing to be honest with myself. I became willing to try something, to take suggestions and try new things that I'd never been willing to fully commit to before. And all that is beyond, it's not something intellectual that I thought my way into by any means. I can only say that it was a gift from God. That's the only way I can explain it. So and the weirdest thing is, after that, it come over me, and I knew I was willing. Suddenly, I knew that I was willing to do whatever it took. And then I went in front of the judge, and for the first time in my life, the judge blessed me and let me go to a recovery home instead of sending me to prison. And that's never happened. They have no reason to believe that I was ever going to do anything different. And so next thing you know, I'm at this recovery home. And as soon as I got there, I called Tommy T, right? So, which had tried to work with me in the past, but I wasn't ready to fully admit my powerlessness or I just wasn't ready, you know? And so that's when the journey really began. You know, my recovery journey began then. And for the first time in my life, I was able to actually try to apply basic spiritual principles in my life outside of the understanding that I had of God and religion. You know, the way I practice spiritual principles today is something completely, the spiritual principles are the same. The spiritual practice is dramatically different for me today than what I was taught by my father and my grandmother as a child, you know, and I'm grateful for that, you know, to finally find something that works for me in my life and unites me with the power to continue to make positive changes in my life that are practical and make sense to me, you know. And so yeah, a whole lot's changed in my life since then. You know, I was buried in debt, had no license, had years of probation over my head and legal fees at that time, 6 years ago. And relationships in my life were all with all my loved ones, you know, relatives and son, you know, all those relationships were frayed dramatically. And through the course of this thing, like, all that's changed, you know. My life today is, I live somebody else's life today, you know, and it's, you know, it's, the process has been very simple, yet very, you know, but yet takes effort, takes daily effort, you know. But it pays off way more than what I thought it, you know, ever would, you know. You know, today, I'm a reliable employee. My son, he still lives with my mom. He's 17 now. He drives, he works. He's a really responsible kid, you know. He stops over to see me, and, you know, we have a really cool relationship today. You know, he will share things with me that if I hadn't lived through that experience and he didn't know the kind of life I had, he would never share with me. So it actually gives me the upper edge and some of the, you know, with some of the things that's going on with him, because he will talk openly with me about things that he probably wouldn't if I hadn't lived the life that I did prior to.
Yes.
You know, you know, there's today I don't owe anybody any money. I've got all my debts paid. My bills are paid on time. Before I was so upside down, I probably didn't have insurance. If I was driving, my license probably wasn't good. If I was always I was always just in crisis mode because everything was so sideways. I had to try and, it was just putting out fires all the time just to try and survive. It was, you know, it was absolutely miserable, you know. And so the freedom I have today in the small things, and that peace of mind that I'm able, you know, like it's night and day. You know, it's, I guess I would say to the listeners that if I can recover from being a heroin junkie that couldn't get out of bed in the morning, and couldn't live free of jails and institutions because my whole life revolved around drugs, and the things I would do to continue that way of life was, you know, I did things against my own will on a daily basis, things I knew morally and ethically I didn't believe in or wasn't really me, but I had to be that other person in order to continue to feed that monster that I woke up with, you know. And if my life can change, absolutely anybody's can, you know. You know, the spiritual remedy to the problem of addiction, as much as it never made sense to me. When I was first told to me for some years, I thought, how is that going to keep the squirrel from chewing on my brainstem the moment I wake up, telling me that I got to change the way I feel by reaching outside of myself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, as much as I couldn't understand how a spiritual remedy could help that, it's just amazing how effective it actually works, you know, when given a shot, you know, like once fully committed to applying spiritual principles and becoming self-aware, you know, taking an inventory, you know, believing that a power outside of myself has the ability that is capable of being tapped into, and then gives me the ability to transform myself and the lives of everyone around me. You know, sounded like a bunch of, you know, sounded like some baloney until I actually tried it. And then, you know, and then I realized that it works unbelievably effective. You know, it works so effectively. So it's, you know, and today I get to live a peaceful life, you know. I live with my girlfriend. She's in recovery also. And it's so cool to have somebody around you that understands, you know, because, you know, because we have these same kind of mental glitches and these same character flaws that we have to continue to work through. But on the other hand, when somebody understands it, when I finally get outside of myself enough to have that important conversation, it's like, yep, we're right on the same page. You know, there's no fighting or arguing at my house. There's no, you know, like my whole life was chaos and anger and, you know, frustration with other people, and just could not coexist with anyone. So to think that today my life is so quiet that it's, you know, yeah, I don't know. It's extremely peaceful to me. Somebody else might say it's boring, you know, because there isn't more emotional, you know, you know, emotional drama in my life. But I've had enough of that, you know. Like, to me, you know, to me, it's man, it's just a blessing. In a lot of ways, I feel like I didn't really even do anything to get here. You know, I mean, I did. I became a willing participant, but so much happened despite of me, just by becoming willing. It's, you know, it's unexplainable, you know.
Thank you for believing in you.
Right. Thank you for believing
in you. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't always, you know, and that's also a powerful thing. You know, it wasn't until I come to the full realization that someone else that was in recovery fully believed in my ability, and then put me in a position to, in a position of trust based on that it actually hit me. And the power of believing in yourself can be spurred, you know, can begin with somebody else's belief in us, you know, and that's a powerful thing, you know. That can be what triggers somebody's complete transformation right there. And that's also true part of my story. And so I won't hog any more of you guys' time. I would love to hear Jennifer now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Yes, thank you for letting me share. I'm grateful.
Powerful.
Thank you, Keith. My story, I guess, I've always been a user. I got addicted to meth about 3 years, 3 years ago. And I was court ordered to a treatment program. And kind of like what Keith was saying, other people believed in me. So that's why I started believing in myself. I was always the toxic, chaotic one I went around and started fires everywhere and then just expected other people to clean up my mess. So once I started looking that I was the problem, those kind of faded away. Had to start working on my defects and how I treated others. And I had a lot of people that poured into me to give me hope and all that. And I still have those people in my corner today. That's it.
That's a very beautiful story,
Right.
Jennifer, because like the opening statement, what I was saying, that the kind of people that we surround ourselves with is very, very important.
Yeah.
Because many times
Yeah.
we really don't
And
see.
today they're different.
Yeah, yeah. And that helped you with your transformation.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it helped you with your transformation. Wow, that's great.
Jennifer, thanks for sharing that. Could you name one moment that navigates you to pivot? Sorry, you want to continue?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you can you name one specific moment that give you that turnaround and navigate you to where you are? I know you talk about the people and that you surround yourself by or with, but can you pinpoint one specific moment?
Probably in my rehab.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be like any of those other ladies in there. And probably 2 weeks in, I realized that I was an addict and I was just like those ladies that were there. And that's when I started working my program.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Okay.
What truth do you return to when the journey feels heavy?
Mm.
Prayer, for sure.
Prayer?
Wow.
Mm.
Prayer,
That's very
for sure.
That's powerful, Jennifer.
That's very powerful. And like what just
Yes.
piggybacking on Keith, because when you rely on that spiritual component, right, that you know that there is something outside of yourself that you can lean onto, that you can hold on to, that can give you the kind of reset that you're looking for outside of yourself. It's a very, very strong, and it is
For
so
sure.
profound that can keep you grounded in whatever is at the moment you're experiencing. Is that right?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that happens to me for sure. I get stuck in the daily grind and wear myself down, and it's very important to stop and take time for myself and reconnect with that power, and prayer, meditation, things I probably don't spend enough time doing, but have to make a place in my life for those things in order to keep my mind on the same frequency as that power,
Right.
because I can continue to
Right.
break out of that wavelength, and I have to get back. I think of it like my brain is a radio, and I got to keep it tuned into that channel. Otherwise, I will make a bigger mess out of things than they need to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
I will have a bad day and realize that I didn't do my daily prayer in the morning.
Right.
So the next morning I am hitting it hard before I roll out of bed, and my next day is way better.
Yeah. Because that, you see, that is one of the ingredients that is necessary for your foundation. Because every person that went through an experience, the ingredients that we nourish ourselves with every day, it's helping to strengthen that foundation.
Correct.
That the new foundation that we are building for ourselves, because we are building a new foundation for ourselves to stand on, and We always have to, in those moments like what you just said, the self-awareness, you realize, you know what, I didn't do my prayers. That is why I feel the way I feel. So the next morning you was able to course correct yourself, because you know that is one of the essential ingredients to start your day.
So that you can be fortified and be filled.
Yes.
And that you know that there is something, one of those modalities that can help you to continue the process on your journey and staying strong and feeling full.
Wow. Beautiful. Tommy T?
Hi there. I was so happy when Jennifer and Keith agreed to come on here. And as I hear them talking, you know, it makes my one eye tear up here. I got to tease Jennifer here. Why don't you pan and show the audience, she's she's in charge. She's the director of this recovery cafe. Why don't you pan around and show them? It's really a beautiful place. Yeah, just pick your computer up and pan it around a little bit. It's a beautiful place, and we have a lot of people that come in there, and she has done a great job. I didn't have anything to do with it, but the whole atmosphere completely changed after she took over. And none of it is similar. And there are all kinds of people. There are people there from in their 80s all the way down to teenagers who show up there.
Wow.
And so you're not going to pan and show it, huh?
Yeah, you can pan and show us.
Just turn your computer and show it. I guess she didn't want to. Okay.
Is she frozen?
I think she's froze. Yeah, I think she is. She may have to come out and come back in. Yeah, I think for whatever reason, she may have moved her computer and her connection might not be that great. But anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Did you pan it? Yeah, you were froze for a while. So I don't know if you panned it or what.
I did.
You were frozen. But okay. So maybe we're not supposed to see it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it probably did the
no.
connection to your
I
Wi-Fi.
did show you.
Okay. You were just froze, but that works. But yeah, I was just talking about, how that place has changed, and you are just perfect for that role there. You just are, and I really
Thanks, Tommy.
am, happy with you. I see you in meetings. I got to tell a story, which I went blind in that place she's in, right? So my story is, I went out and got a chair because we didn't have enough chairs, right? So I came back in with my chair and sat down, and there was a thing over my right eye. There was a veil that covered up half of my vision, and I'm like, what the hell? And I figured, well, I looked at Jennifer, and I don't know, man. It's like some sort of Greek thing, And that's what I told her. And I went blind in my right eye, and within 2 days I was blind.
Wow.
But I didn't freak out with it, and I didn't fear, because we have a thing called the third step.
Dang it.
And in that third step, it basically says, and I remember when Keith was doing this, that we turn our will and our life over the care of God as we understand it, And the fear just wasn't there. It should have been. And I'm driving up by Chicago to this specialist, to get operated on, down 8094, which is a very busy highway. And I was freaked out then with one eye. But I had my Diana with me, and we got there and we got it done, and I had the operation. And now my vision is starting to come back. I remember Keith. When he kept coming to meetings, and he would and he'd nod out in his coffee cup. And it happened a lot. And I was trying to sponsor him, and we were working together. And I remember we were doing step work, and he really wanted the change, but he just couldn't make the connection. And I understood it. And probably one of the reasons that I've been successful sponsoring him is I was in and out of the programs for 14 years. The 12-step programs, I just couldn't stay there. The minute things got bad, even after I had 5 years, I would pick up and make some of the worst decisions in my life. And kind of like Keith, I remember I was in prison and all this nonsense and all this craziness, and I was in my 40s, and I remember looking around what was going on, and suddenly I realized that I was exactly where I needed to be, that this is who I was and why I was there, and it completely changed how I saw the world, and I joined the human race. Kind of like what Jennifer said, you know. And both Jennifer and Keith got to go into recovery homes and sober living. And this changed both of their lives because it broke them out of their reality. And I got to tell another story on Keith. Oh yeah, he's got like,
For sure.
he had an 8-year sentence. Now this is good. You know, I'm not going to tell anything else, but you kept coming back, dude. And I remember when you got a hold of me. So he called me, and I had sent him a book and sent him a letter. But when he goes in, he just cuts everything off. You know what I mean? And stays in that space because that's how he lives when he's locked up. He doesn't, you know, he just cuts off. And then when he left, he received the letter, and he called me immediately, and it was totally different. He harassed me every day, and we went through the 12-step literature at night. And after he'd been in there, and I mean, he would not leave me alone, man. We'd be doing this 2, 3, 4 hours every night, you know. He would not leave me alone. When are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? And then I started coming down and visiting him. And after he'd only been in there 30 days, you know, he'd spent some time in jail before that, of course, before he went in there. After he'd been there 30 days, he called me. And he says, "Oh, it's so messed up. Oh, I can't believe it." And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on, man? And he said, you know, I've only been in here 30 days, and this house had like 18 guys in it. And he said, they asked me to be the resident manager, which is a big deal. And there have been guys that have been there months and months and months, you know, that had been in, you know, positions of authority. They had 4 different guys, you know, to help. And they asked him to be in charge of it. And part of it is the nature of Keith. He's kind of laid back, and you know what I mean? And people like him, you know, and trust him, you know, which they probably shouldn't have back in the day, but
right. I said something about them.
yeah, but you know, he's him, you know, and you know, his blue collar working background, he just had a natural ability, and they saw leadership. But what they mainly saw is one of the guys was also in recovery, and he saw Keith working the steps. He would sit on this thing, you know, there are people and, you know, stuff going on all around him, and he would be on the steps there to get away from people, and we'd be reading the literature, going through it paragraph by paragraph. And they saw this, and they had asked him at 30 days there to be the resident manager, and he says, "Oh, wow." And I said, "Dude," I said, "if they've asked you to do that, there's a reason for it. They see something in you, and I think this is your higher power reaching out to you, and I think you should take it." And it was it was funny. We laugh about it, and I won't say what we call it, but he was just giddy. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to recover." That's the first time he realized and had hope. "Oh my God, I'm going to recover. I'm going to recover. This is real." And I can feel something just talking about it. And I remember that moment. And well, I've teased him about it for years, but it's totally different, man. You know,
It
I,
sounds so it sounds so silly, but sometimes these simple realizations that are so profound
Correct.
just
Correct.
come along and just hit you
Correct. Correct.
right in the sweet spot, and then it's like you're aware of something or aware of a capability that you never even
Tapped
could have
into
dreamed
it.
of before. You know?
It's a light bulb. There's a light bulb moment.
Yeah, it's just like switch flips. You know?
and that happened for Jennifer too, you know. And we have somebody that comes to our meeting, Mikey, who was in the same town where Jennifer was when she was in that recovery home. And I want to point out, and I helped with a couple of the addicts some years back. I helped start a recovery home. I, set it up and got things started, and then it was time for me to get out of there. But I firmly believe in recovery homes and sober living to transition. And I believe that
Oh,
that
for
had
sure.
a powerful effect on both Jennifer and Keith. Do you agree?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know for me, I learned how to deal with without confrontation, without making a mess of the situation.
Hmm.
That's what I did.
I know you well
know,
enough
I
to
knew how
know,
to
yeah.
I knew how to start fires and burn it all down. I didn't know how to have conflict and how to resolve it without making a mess of the situation. So I know that really helped me living there.
Jennifer, how did you navigate the voice of shame when it came up in your life as a woman?
Once again, I had to leave my daughter at home, so I knew the whole abandonment thing. That was what I had shame and guilt on. That was more give it to my higher power. And the relationship my daughter and I have today, we're best friends. So
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
That is truly awesome.
Her daughter also comes to the Recovery Cafe every now and then and just
oh yeah,
fits right in. You know what I mean? But I got to
Yeah.
tell another story on Keith. And there's a probation officer that knew him, and we were talking about him. I would go over and see the probation officer, and this is when he was still using. If he'd just quit lying, and I was trying to sponsor him at the time, and I'm like, no. And this same probation officer, and she's also in a 12-step
in
program
recovery.
in recovery, and she looked at the paperwork with Keith, and he still had, I don't know, supposed to have 2.5 years or whatever left on probation. They had taken him off house arrest. That's another long story. He's supposed to be on an ankle bracelet, and that's very much controlled movement. You're supposed to go to work, meetings, and home, and maybe go shopping once a week. Now, he had a little problem staying within those guidelines at one time, but they had given him a lot of room, but he still was on probation. And the probation officer grabbed him by the ear and drug him over to the court, showed him how to fill out this paperwork, and had him go before the judge. And this is in circuit court, that's the big court, and they made that time go away.
Mm.
The probation officer literally drug him over, and then they had him in court. You want to talk about that experience, Keith?
Sure. Yeah. So I was on probation for, oh boy, I was supposed to be on house arrest for 4 years, then probation for another 4 years. This is all just on this one last case that I was telling you when I was in jail and had the spiritual experience and things started to change. But so anyway, I got off house arrest early because they modified my sentence. And then I was on probation I was supposed to have 6 more years. I was on for 2.5 years. Yeah, about 2.5 years. And they came to me and said, basically what she said was that there's no need for you to remain on probation because you're night and day different now, and I'm going to help you get off. And then she took me over there and helped me fill out the paperwork, and then went in front of the judge, and I didn't really even say much. My probation officer told the judge that it was time they stood up and rewarded people for doing the right thing, and there was no need for me to be on probation. And by the time it was done, the judge was thanking me, probation was thanking me, and the prosecutor was thanking me. And I'm like, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm thinking, I'm telling them how happy I am and grateful for them, for doing their job. I always thought the legal system was out to get me, but at the end of the day, without those people doing their jobs, I may have never had that realization, may have never been motivated to change. Like they played an integral part in my recovery. But so I'm thanking them, and then they're thanking me for having changed my life because now their job has meaning. And I'm like, so it was a wild experience. And today I'm free of the legal system for, the first time in my adult life, and it's great. Like, it's crazy to not have to think about or worry about any of the repercussions of making those kinds of decisions or being stuck in that way of life. And yeah, so I don't know, kind of a crazy story, but I guess it just goes to show that anybody can turn it around, and when you do, other people can't deny that, and they have to honor what they see with their own 2 eyes. So yeah, that's that story. That's all I got.
I want to say something. You see the topic, when I saw that, Grace for the Journey, 1 breath, 1 step, right? And I'm kind of like, well, they probably should have talked to us about the topic. We're in recovery. I want to read you, and there's a daily meditation for one of the programs, and this is what it says for May 31. I want to read this. Keep it simple. We live a day at a time, but also from moment to moment. When we stop living in the here and now, our problems become magnified unreasonably. Life often seems too complicated to understand, especially for those of us who've dodged it for so long. And like all 3 of us have talked about that when we were talking our stories, dodging life, man, that's what I did. When we stopped using drugs, many of us came face to face with a world that was confusing, even terrifying. Looking at life in all its details all at once may be overwhelming. We think that maybe we can't handle life after all, and that it's useless to try. These thoughts feed themselves, and pretty soon we're paralyzed by the imagined complexity of life. And I loved what Karen talked about, that negative spiral. And I used to buy into that and generate all this misery until I had absolutely no defense against picking up a substance, because I could not stand to live in the misery I had created. And that was a pattern that I did over and over and over from the first time I used at 16. I'm sorry. I just wanted to say, and when you said that negative spiral, man, both you ladies are incredible. These are earth angels as far as I'm concerned. I got to meet them in person, and it's extraordinary. Anyway, we've been doing this, for 5 years?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you.
Happily, we don't have to fix everything at once.
Absolutely.
solving a single problem seems possible. So we take them one at a time. We take care of each moment as it comes, and then take care of the next moment as it comes. We learn to stay clean just for today, and we approach our problems the same way. When we live life in each moment, it's not such a terrifying prospect. Listen to this. One breath at a time,
Wow.
we stay clean and learn to live. Yeah, I am so used to this with these two ladies.
Oh my
It doesn't even freak me out anymore.
Wow.
It's like when I'll finish the last bit. Just for today, I will keep it simple by living at this moment only. Today, I will tackle only today's problems. I will leave tomorrow's problems to tomorrow. When I saw that, and then saw the topic, I was kind of like, no, that's typical working with the ladies. And when Keith and I do step work, we'll be taught, we might only get through a couple of paragraphs. Like he comes over every Sunday in the morning, and we still do step work. And after he left that recovery home, after, I don't know, 5 months there, whatever it was, 6 months there, he came home, and we were a little concerned, that every time he'd ever come back here, his family and I were concerned. But he was a different dude, man, a completely different person. And he started a meeting there on Sunday, working through what we call a flat book in one of the programs. And we carried that meeting back there. We missed only a few Sundays for 3.5 years, and that's like 65 miles away or something. And we drove there every week, and
Wow.
some amazing spiritual experiences happen during those trips, as you ladies well know. But yeah, just
Wow.
the difference in these two individuals is just extraordinary, and it's been an honor to witness both of them. And
Yeah. Great.
yeah, I love how both of them describe things. How they see life, and particularly Jennifer. I just have so much fun listening to her. She's fun, man. She just is, and she's so vividly honest, man. Both of them are,
Mhm. Wow, that is so beautiful. Thank you, Tommy. Jennifer, we want to toss the mic to you, because when you said you learn how to handle conflict, that is so important.
Yes. Conflict resolution was definitely something I had to work on, because it was always throw a fit, get your way. And it wasn't like that in my court program and in the sober living house. So that was something I had to work on.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
because right, because it's difficult to what tip would you give to someone who is listening, who is not able to handle conflict? What would you say to them at this moment?
My first step these days is to just breathe, to stop, pause, take a breath. And I say this often, don't I, guys? Like, I have to stop myself, inhale, exhale. By the time that happens, I'm usually in a different headspace. I don't want to react, and I can just respond accordingly instead of fly off the handle.
Right.
So breathe. Definitely breathe.
Right. Because so that you don't just react because the situation occurred.
Yeah.
You take the time, you pause, and you gather your thoughts together. And just by doing that, it really, really changes your
Yes.
response.
Yes. I'm definitely, by the time I have to like intentionally breathe, I am a different person than if I would have reacted first.
Correct. Correct. Thank you for sharing that.
Right.
Keith,
Um,
when
No problem.
okay, no, you go, Tom. Tommy T.
I was just going to say, if you look at the shirt I'm wearing, this is from Lydia's merch. You know, Lydia, we need to have her back up.
We love
She has
Lydia.
a program. We need to have her back. She actually graduated with a doctor's in music from, gosh, I can't think of this school there in New York, Juilliard, and
Okay.
she's incredible. My
She
voice,
is.
she can
Yeah.
play anything, and she does this music. Yeah, it's just incredible. But yeah, I love to have her back on because she does these quick 2 and 3 minute meditations, and she
She's
has a
good.
group.
She's good.
Yeah,
She's
we
good.
need to get
We
her
love
back
her.
on,
Shout out
please.
to you, Lydia.
Yeah.
You know we
Yeah,
love you,
she's
Lydia. You're our sister
yeah,
too.
but this is her shirt. It says breathe, and on the back it says I'm calm. I wore this when I was going crazy driving through that traffic and, went to this eye doctor, to get the operation, and I wasn't calm.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's been incredible. Yeah, we need to get her back on. I'll
Thank
harass her.
you. Thank you. Yeah.
But
Tom, we just
go ahead.
we just want to ask you the question how it felt for you in the moment when you were driving 7 to 8 miles from to go to the doctor and with a one eye patch over your head, and you mentioned your Diana, which is your beautiful wife. How did you feel when you had to just really rely because the love that you both share with each other during your journey, we should say, as you continue to describe that moment for us?
Um, One day, and it's really sad because she and I have been together for since September of 2001, right? And we had a short break in service where we broke up and divorced, and then we got back together the same year. But I woke up one day, a year or two ago, and realized that I was sleeping next to my best friend. And it just changed everything. And I trust her implicitly. Before she would tell me something, and maybe a few months later somebody else would say basically the same thing, and I go like, "Oh wow, man, so and so said this," and she's like, "Asshole," I mean, like, sorry, but I didn't, for whatever reason, and it comes from, like Keith said, not trusting people, particularly women, due to experiences I had growing up, you know, and all the relationships I'd sabotaged. But she became my best friend, and we found, she's 67 now, I'm 75, and we found a whole new level of love and trust. So I trust her implicitly. She may have to come back in. Oh, there she is. She's fine. Um, I trusted her. And what she does is I can drive around town, but I can't be in a 4 lane or be anywhere if she's not there being my right eye. And what happens is I can see, but it's distorted. And that's why I'm wearing this eye patch. It's just very disconcerting to see all these warped images. My vision's starting to come back, but even mowing the grass, or I was out hoeing and raking the garden, and planting things, and I forgot I'm 75 years old, so I could barely hobble when I was mowing, and I miss these. Doing anything with one eye it's difficult, particularly when you have some partial vision in my right eye that comes over, and I won't know where my vision is going to end up until 9 months after the operation. So again, we once we make that choice of trusting in higher power, and a lot of my higher power is demonstrated through Diana and her love for me. And I got to tell this, I think a lot of us in addiction, our heart, our connection through our heart is damaged and broken. And our trust in ourselves, in our relationships, and in humanity. And it's only been in the last year or two that I feel, and particularly in the last 6 months, that I can feel a heart connection when I think about Diana. If that makes any sense. I can sense and feel her, and I feel a heart connection with these two people right here also. And it was something that had been broken and blocked. And Keith and I have some pretty deep conversations on that level. And he's just so different, man, in his relationships and his maturity. He certainly didn't get it from me. You know, it's like he became himself. If that makes any sense at all.
That makes sense.
He became that loving, happy kid that he was at 12, and then built on it and became into his adult life. And the same with the lady here, with Jennifer, with Jen. Jen, we call her Jen. You know, just the incredible change in such a short period of time with both of these individuals. It just, you know, when they were telling their stories, it was difficult to keep the one eye from tearing up, you know, because it is so powerful. No, I'm serious, man. I remember when you first started coming to meetings and things, and you got Mikey there harassing you all the time.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's, yeah.
But you know, the beautiful thing, Tom, is that when we just look back at our lives, we are being used every day to help someone else, because our path cross with different lives, and we become a catalyst to help our individual as we move through life. So when we heal, we're helping someone else.
Correct.
Because with our healing, we are able now, we have the ability now to help someone else on their healing journey as well. And I'm going to piggyback on something that Keith said. Keith talked about commitment. Because when we are on a healing path, we got to be committed and rooted in what we're doing. There are some days that we may feel disgusted with ourselves, but then we always have to go back to the commitment we made with ourselves as individuals, and that is what gave us the strength to pull ourselves back up, to continue moving on our journey. And when we surrender, we are able to understand so many things in our lives. And we are able not to blame ourselves. When we surrender, we don't blame ourselves anymore. When we surrender, different things start to happen in our lives. As Keith was sharing his story, when he surrendered, everything started to fall into place. Because how he was seeing himself, the other people was not seeing him that way. They saw the beauty in him. They saw the resilience in him. And they said, you know what? we can take away this from him and allow him to be. Allow heat to rise now. So they will remove those conditions from your life and allow you as an individual now. Because you went through the phase of rebirth. That was rebirth. And as you went through that phase, your delivery now, they bring you out into the world now because you was being delivered now into the world. So now you had to take that now and use that to your advantage to help others now in the world, which you're doing. And that is so beautiful when people could believe in us.
Yeah.
When people can believe in us, that gives us hope that we can move forward with our lives. And it helps us not to blame ourselves and to see ourselves as being victim of our past. So it's truly amazing you guys are sharing your story today, because I can guarantee you, Joan can guarantee you, it will help someone, whatever they may be going through this point in time, that there is hope, surrender. When Pete looked himself in the mirror, he told himself, this is not me. This is not me. There is more to me. There is more to Pete. It's time for me to make that change with my life. And that is self-awareness. But it's only when you come to that place of self-awareness, then things will start to change.
Yeah. Very true.
When you don't come to that space of self-awareness, nothing can change. That's an eye-opener. That's the light bulb. Because everything is like the veil start to move away from your eyes now, and you start to see things different. Yes.
Absolutely.
Lady J?
Right. I support everything you said. And so what you're doing now, you're shining your light, right? You're shining your light, you're illuminating others, because you're in a place now where you found something. You mentioned that when you've lean now more on your spiritual principles. And because you lean now more on your spiritual principles, then you're getting new downloads, you're getting new wisdom, right? And you found love in your life, somebody who can resonate with you, and you both can be on the same page. When you talk about peace, describe that more in depth for somebody who is thinking and looking about peace and trying to find a level of alignment of peace for themselves with a partner. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Peace is the comfort that comes from knowing that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Yes.
You know?
Beautiful. Very
You
beautiful.
know, like I know today that even when it's a bad day, or maybe I don't see things eye to eye with somebody else, I ultimately know that through that process, everything is going to work out in my life exactly how it's supposed to. You know, and I used to fight that and try and manipulate the outcome and push narratives that weren't for the good of anybody, you know, except for what I thought I wanted. And today it's not like that. Today, I don't know how to explain it other than today, when conflict starts to come up, if I feel like I'm having to push too hard or convince somebody too much, it's become a lot easier for me to step back and kind of expand. I don't know how to explain it other than expand my consciousness just enough to realize that what I'm to not stay stuck in that small-minded place where I have to be right or have to continue to fight against something that isn't a good solution, you know. I don't know if that answered the question.
Of course, I answered the question, but also what that says about you is the growth and evolution, growth and expansion. Because as we all every day we constantly becoming, but the level and the place that you are, that you're living your higher self right now, So you maneuver differently, you navigate differently because you're expanding the version of yourself. So who you used to be, you're no longer that person
No, no.
because growth and expansion has taken place in your life. So your thinking becomes different, your mindset becomes different.
Mhm.
You're in a new place in your life and you're consistently evolving in that space in your life. So your journey is brighter, it's beautiful, and you create an impact every day so that others can learn from you. You become a mentor, you become someone that people could look up to. Yes, your past does not define you because you've put that behind you. It has shaped you to the man that you have
Mhm.
become. So we just want to congratulate all three of you, but specifically we're talking to you, Keith, that where you are right now is a beautiful, a sweet spot that you found love and you two live in a life of peace. And when situation arises, you handle it in a different level than you've been living before.
I
Thank
I
you.
want to
Welcome.
ask or point one thing out that Jen has shared in the past. When you went into uh, the recovery program or treatment or whatever that you first went into, you had you had absolutely no intention of stopping using. You figured you'd. I think you've shared that before, if I remember correctly, and something turned around for you in there.
Mhm.
It's like most people, particularly meth users, they go through whatever they have to
Sorry,
go
Tommy, you
through.
cut
But
out.
okay, um,
Okay.
did you hear? Yeah, I think you've got a little bit of Wi-Fi problems there, but you had no intention of staying
Yeah.
clean when you first went in the program, did you?
What was the question?
You didn't. I think you've shared before.
No, definitely not. No. I,
Wow.
But when did that moment change? Something had to happen. Well, I think you explained it, but you must have had a cusp, a moment just like Keith had.
um, I think when I started doing the treatment, I started healing myself. That's when I realized that I wanted to heal myself, to heal my daughter, my relationship, my family. That me working on myself was going to heal her,
Mhm.
Beautiful.
That's so beautiful.
or at least help.
That's
But that can only happen with self-awareness.
Right, right.
That
Yeah.
only
Sure.
happened because you were self-aware and you realize that it all starts with you. And
Yes.
if you can start that process, you realize that that can help her and help future generation who's coming along. So it started with you to help the rest of generation that is going to come after you. So you took upon yourself, you know what? It will start with me at this point in time.
Mm.
So the beautiful thing is that when we can come to that place of self-awareness, we can really and truly understand what we are doing. Because it's like we are passing on the baton, not only to our families, but to people who we encounter on a daily basis. Because we just never know who we're going to be encountering. Because we raise our level to a higher frequency now. We're not our lower selves anymore. We have changed. Evolution happened. And because that happened, we're going to be meeting people along the way who's going to need our help. So we become the torch to pass it on to our children, to the future generation that is going to be coming along. And now we are able to help the world at large.
Mm.
So the beautiful thing is that when we go through these different experiences in life, it only shapes us for something bigger and something higher. So many times we are going through things in life and we may be questioning why this is happening to me. But there is a particular reason we are chosen for things to happen. Because the divine know we have the capacity and using us as a catalyst so we can be able to help with humanity and the evolution of humanity.
That's powerful.
So we as individuals now need to really pause and look at ourselves as we're going through these experiences. And when we're going through these experiences, we need to gather all the information that we can gather in these experiences. We need to journal. We need to write these things down, because that is how we get authors. Because a lot of people use their experiences that they go through in order to write a book. And when you write a book now, when you tell the story, you're able to help someone else who is experiencing that at the present time. And again, I'm going to use the word self-aware because I really like this word.
I know you love
Only when you're self-aware, then you're going to really come to that place of understanding. Then things going to start to show up in your life. And I'm going to shift gear a little bit here because I think I need to touch on this as well. Let's talk to families now. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. And we need to support our families when they're in a crisis. We need to show up for our families. We need to show up and give them that support. Because many times when we're going through stuff, families just abandon us. They leave us. When we really need them, they abandon us and they don't show up for us because they say it's a shame. It's a shame. You brought shame to the family, you know. But we got to show up for our families. We got to rally around them. We're not perfect. There is no perfectness. So we got to rally around our families. There is no shame. There's no guilt. We got to rally around them. In whatever form or fashion, we need to do it. Because many times we are looking back for our families and there's no family there for us. We just got to rely now on other families to show up for us, or your friends to show up for us. And even to the friends, many times friends showing up, but they're showing up to get information and then they want to use it back against you to weaponize you. So if you are that friend who's showing up to get information to weaponize, it's not a good thing. I don't know who I'm speaking to, but this just come up. We got to stop weaponizing people. Show up and be authentic. When you go to somebody and offering help to them, be authentic with your help. Be honest with your help, because that person is being vulnerable with you. So be honest with that individual. If you know you can't do it, don't show up to offer any service or any help, because you're not honest. We have to start supporting people and stop looking down on people, because we all make mistakes in life. And I don't see it as mistakes. It's part of our journey. It's part of our evolution, because we learn from these situations. We learn from these experiences. So we need to start to show up and show up authentically. Back to you, Lady J.
Wow.
I don't know why I needed to say that, but I just had to say it.
That's very strong and very, very. But no, I agree with you, because you know, when we in a crisis or a situation, we need the support. We need people to rally around us and to hold us up and to help us to be strong, so that we can all continue on our journey and live the best version of ourselves and show gratitude in the moment. But I want to ask Jennifer this question, and how do you feel at this moment when you are playing such a major role is it a cafe you are, right?
They call it the Recovery Cafe.
Yeah,
Recovery Cafe. Thank you, Timothy. And
How do I feel?
yeah, and living a life of service, because you're serving others there, correct?
Yes. It feels good. It's definitely my favorite job. It's the relationships I've made here are we're like-minded individuals, I will say, and we have a great time doing it.
Yeah. Mhm.
I go ahead,
No,
please.
no, you go ahead, Tommy T.
I was just going to say that she is so perfect in the role she's in. And I think about all the people and how you reach them and touch them. And they're such a,
Oh, thank
you're perfect for where you're at and what you're doing. You know,
Thank you.
it just, you just, I've watched you just blossom. I remember coming in there and you make a connection with everybody, and some of the folks there are a little difficult to deal with from time to time. Yeah,
For sure.
there's a pretty wide range of personalities, let's say, and you
Yeah.
for some of the most challenged and broken, you make a connection. You know, and I don't
Thank you.
need you know, I see it, and
Thanks.
yeah.
You see, when we meet people, Tom, we always have to remember one thing, right? We all are evolving, right? And when we show up in a space, we will meet people who are evolving, but they are evolving at a different pace.
Correct.
They may not be at our level, but they are evolving. So we now, because we are self-aware, and that is what Jennifer is doing, because Jennifer is self-aware and she understands the space that she was placed in.
Right.
So when somebody show up, they are still on their evolution journey. She now could be there as a grounded individual to keep them balanced, that in spite they may start escalating with whatever it is. She now stay in that place, be in that space, and she could bring groundedness into that space. Am I correct, Jennifer?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to hope so. You know,
Yeah.
I know I look at a couple people that are in here and I see myself a long time ago, you know, and just chaos, complete chaos. And I'm trying to give them any way to feel some peace. And
Right.
so we'll see. You know, I hope it helps.
There is no mistake you was
No.
placed there, girl. There was
Right.
absolutely no
Right.
mistake.
Right.
There is a reason why you're there. There is a reason. Go ahead, Lady
And
Jen.
as you shared
you.
prior, yeah, as you shared prior, you said you start with your prayers in the morning, right? And so you already fortifying yourself
Yes.
before you enter your day. So you are able to make that and create that level of impact in whatever way it is, because you're fortified, you're filled, you're spiritually grounded in that moment. So as whatever you encounter during the course of the day, you bring the level of calmness, the level of peace, the level of serenity and tranquility to the space that you're in right now. So
And I
thank
may
you.
have to like come in and start over and do it all again, you know, a
Yeah.
couple times during the day. You know, if I fall off my, you know, my path, and I try, and it instantly, I can start again, you know.
Quick reset.
That's the beauty.
Quick reset. Yeah.
That's the beauty. Because you're again, you're able to recognize that this is not me.
Mhm.
I need to go back on that frequency that I normally be on. So you make that shift.
Yes.
As Joan said, you reset. Quickly, you're able to make that shift so quickly.
Yeah.
She, you know, with Jennifer, the change has been so quick and so deep. It hasn't been all that long for her, you know. And I remember when she first started coming to meetings, You know, she works all day. She works
Right.
in a
Mhm.
local plant here, and yeah, they love her and fear her there probably in equal measure. She's, and you just know she's fun at work, and
Mhm.
working in plants like that is not always fun,
It's
I'll
not.
tell you. For years, yeah, and it's been wonderful. I got
Yeah.
to tell a early recovery Keith story, two of them, and no, this is good shit, and I remind him of this fairly often, and this is when we were working the first step.
I think it's when Keith was falling asleep in his coffee.
Yeah, no, it's
No.
before then. No, that was before,
Okay.
and he'd been at
Okay.
the recovery home not even a week, and his dad pointed out, he brought him there, whatever, and it says, hey, his family installs windows, doors. Keith is a craftsman. He says he's not, but he is, and he's very skilled at anything to do with construction. I've seen his work, and I briefly worked with his family, and there was a place there that built windows. And his dad said, hey, it was right across the street from the recovery home. And his dad said, hey, you should look into that,
Mhm.
right? So Keith went over there. The guy talked to him, and unbeknownst, the guy had also been clean for years, and Keith was very honest and told his story. And the guy hired him on the spot
Wow.
and gave him an okay wage. Well, he had also applied at an automotive manufacturing plant, and he accepted the job and was going to start Monday or whatever, at this small family business. And he also got told that that there was a job paying like $6 or $7 more an hour that he could go to. The Keith I knew would have called over across the street and said, hey, I can't take this lower paying job. And he made the decision to go with that individual who had gave him an opportunity.
Wow.
That wasn't the Keith I knew.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
amazing how things work out.
and
Last week was my birthday, and I'm great friends with those people to this day. And his wife messaged me and told me happy birthday and said, make sure you stop
oh,
in when you're back
they
in Lafayette.
they
And so
just
just run into these people at the right time that have
uh,
had the same shared experience and build a lifelong friendship with people that I
Yes.
could call them right now, and they would talk to me about anything in the world or help me in any way they could, and I would the same for them, all because um, my higher power saw fit to put them in the right place at the right time, and
Yeah.
have my dad come there to bring me some stuff and say, maybe you should go over there and apply it at that window factory. And yeah, it's crazy how well things work out in our lives
Yeah.
when
well,
we
let
decide to.
let's
Go ahead,
drop
Tom.
the other shoe on that. So a bunch of people went to work. It's a temp hire, but I think he had a direct hire, and it started at $22 an hour, man. And I mean, yeah, man, everybody wanted to go to work there. And 2 weeks later, um, they couldn't get any parts from China, and the plant basically shut down. So he
Oh,
would have
wow.
worked there 2 weeks and been out of work, like a lot of other people there that were at the recovery home. And so by making that decision, it just worked out perfectly. And it was a day shift position, and it was right across the street. So when they asked him to be the resident manager, he got a private room. He could basically do whatever he wanted as long as he took care of certain things. And he had a lot of responsibility, And they were really happy with him and the people there in the house. He worked well. And after he'd been there a while, you know, he started getting kind of tough on people because they would punish the entire house when people weren't doing what they were supposed to. So he started bouncing them out, you know, making decisions, you know. But during that same time, I came over there with his dad, right? And he and his father, I had worked briefly with them. They were they just could create instant anger and rage. You know what I mean? And I had worked with them, and I'd seen that. And I understand because I had a similar relationship with my own father. But anyway, he and I were there, and there was a vehicle that Keith, I actually brought from Keith, and I bought it in April, and this is back in February, and he was going to get this vehicle that we didn't even get a title for 6 freaking months, right? There was no title for it. And his dad said, I don't think you should take that vehicle when it's not legal. It's not a good idea. And I saw Keith just, and I'm like, here we go, you know. And we went into Walmart to get some stamps or something. He had to pay some bills. And we were in there, and I talked to him. I said, you know, your dad wants the best for you. It's just like with my Diana. He loves you and wants the best for you. And mostly what the things he says like that are in your best interest. And Keith came out, and it's still touching now, you know, almost 6 years later. And he looked at his dad and said, Dad, I won't take that vehicle, and I won't go there. You know, I won't drive that until you're comfortable with it. And his dad went and looked over at me like, what have you done to my son? Because it was so out of character. And all this happened within a few days. And his life from those moments totally changed. And so his brother had a great big SUV, great big monster SUV. The thing was beautiful shape, and his brother's wife wanted to get rid of it. And so they sold it to Keith and made a deal and everything. And it was legal. There was insurance on it. Everything was fine. He drove that vehicle. How long were you back? Like 3 days, 4 days?
Yeah, it was about 3 days later. So I didn't drive the vehicle that was, I would have had to drive illegally. I ended up buying this vehicle from my brother, and 3 days later, somebody blew a stop sign and tore the whole front of it off.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if he had been driving, I knew the rules there because we basically took the rules and applied them to the recovery home. And I had read through all the rules, and I knew that if you got caught with a bad driver's license, a major violation, a bad title, no insurance or any of those things, they kicked you out. And he had been told by that judge that anything that if this was his last chance, man, he was going to do that whole bit, which would have been what, 6, 7 years, something like that. At least
Yeah, it
4
would
or
have been
5.
over 7 years, yeah.
You'd still be locked up.
I would be.
By making that decision, that one decision, and trusting your dad. But also through that, his brother found this great big monster truck all jacked up with a great big engine, a great big Ford, and he bought that and was running around in that, man. God, that thing burned gas. And we used that to go to those meetings, man, and he paid for all the gas, thank God. You know, we'd go down there every week for months, you know, for years actually, carrying a meeting down there. But just by making those decisions out of character and early recovery, and I know, I've seen Jen make the same type of decisions in the time I've seen her and known her, that his whole life turned around. He should still be locked up. If he had done what he wanted instead of changing the narrative, I said he'd still be locked up.
For sure.
Yeah. For sure.
Is it so often in recovery there are small moments of decisions that we apply when we start making them on a moral and spiritual basis, our lives change.
Yes.
And I know the same thing's been that way for Jen, you know?
Mm-hmm. It's the moments in life, each moment in life, we are given an opportunity to make that change.
Right.
Each moment that we live, we are given an opportunity to make that change with our lives.
Absolutely.
Because you know what? We have a choice. We have a choice. But many times, as I said before, there is so much clouds, so much of fog, and many times we're not even willing to see the beauty in our own self. We're not even willing to see the strength in our own lives. And we bash ourselves so badly. Especially when we are going through these different moments, these different challenges, these different situations, these different experiences. We beat ourselves up really, really, really bad. And there is a space that we're supposed to be showing ourselves grace. But it's all the mindset. Because we're hearing things maybe from friends, from family. You're no good. You're not going to be better than what you are right now. When you start hearing all of these words in your ear, it goes into the subconscious mind and it just keeps replaying all the time. It takes a lot of strength and willpower to pull yourself out from that kind of mindset. It takes a lot as an individual to pull yourself out from that situation. Because for years you're hearing the repeated words. For years you keep people repeating these narratives to you all the time. You're not going to be better than who you are right now. You're a bad person. And people repeating this all the time to you. You're worthless. And you're hearing these things all the time. It becomes your narrative for your own personal self. So you repeated it back to yourself. So it takes a lot of willpower, a lot of courage, a lot of strength to pull yourself out by changing your mindset.
I know my self-talk today is so positive, like I'm my biggest cheerleader, I think, and from the past, I don't even remember if I had self-talk, I think I listened to what other, but now today I'm having great positive self-talk.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on that part. Yeah. And that is advice you're giving right now to someone out there. Whatever you're going through, your self-talk is very, very important.
Yes, I agree.
It's very, very important. When you sit with yourself and the things that you're telling yourself is very, very, very important. Very important. Right, Lady Jen?
Correct. And also, what is important? Well, yourself talking about be including your I ams, right? What follows your I am? I'm great. I'm special. I'm capable. I'm enough. And as you continue to remind yourself who you are, and you stay grounded in that, you're able to stand tall even though you may have the negative influence for yourself from others, you're reminding yourself on a daily basis who you are. You do your mirror work, you look in the mirror, and you remind yourself who you are. And what people say, if it's negative, it does not define who you are.
No,
Your past does not define who you are
no.
because you've grown from what actually you've drawn wisdom from your past because it has helped to reshape who you are. And so you're stronger, you're more capable, you're special, you are enough, and you are unique. So when you're stepping forward from what you've been through, all the struggles, all the challenges, but you're a new person.
Mm-hmm.
Life has given you a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you may go through failures or you may go through rejection, you've learned now to able to redirect that in a positive fashion and use it to your advantage because you rely, as all you spoken, you rely on a higher power. You know that everything happened for you is divine. Everything happens to you in a timely moment. So as you know that there is an extension of you, that you can rely on something higher, bigger than yourself, then you can able to rest easy that even though you might be making a decision, but you are incorporating something special, something supernatural, whether it's God for you, whatever it
Yeah.
is for you, but you are incorporating something that can help you, that can guide you, that can give you the level of inspiration and the level of wisdom. And as you turn into your inner selves, and as you pause, as the topic tonight would be, greatly explore, grace for the journey, one breath, one step. And as you continue to take that one breath, as you continue to take that one step, as you continue to pause and go within and lean into your inner wisdom, you'll be able to draw something so beautiful as this was shared tonight by all three of you, that you understand that your past is not define you. But what it has done for you, it has reshaped you. It has made you stronger. And your light is shining brighter. You're influencing so many different spaces. Jen, you're serving on a higher level. You're able to create impact. You spoke about conflict. And you're able to quell and bring calmness in the space that you're in. And every spaces that you get a chance and an opportunity to be in. Keith, you found love. You found a moment when you were going through what you're going through. You stood in front of the mirror and something happened. A miracle happened for you in the moment. And it shifted your life and now it's history. We want to take this moment to wish you happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
And what you're doing now, we just want to congratulate you for you to keep shining who you are and continue to create the level of impact that you are doing. You're soaring. You're climbing higher heights. You all are living your higher selves right now. Because as Tommy shared it, the influence in one moment that he helped you to make a decision not to choose to drive as his father was asking you not to. And the level of influence that Tommy had shared with you, a light bulb kicked off for you. And you said, no, I'm not going to make that choice anymore. And everything changed for you. So as collectively as you all share in this moment, people who are watching this, watching live and gonna catch the replay, it's powerful things that you share. You're expanding people's toolbox, and you help people to realize that you take one breath, one step, and show yourself grace in the moment that as you continue to journey through life. We just want to thank.
Can I point something out here? Kind of
Sure.
that something important, for all three of our journeys. And neither of these, I've been clean and sober for 29 years, but like I said, I was bouncing in and out of the program for 14 years, and things just got worse and worse and worse. But it's incredible when I see Jen, as we call her,
Mhm.
she really doesn't have all that much time. And the evolution she's been through in such a short time, it embarrasses the hell out of me when I think about where I was at that level of clean time. But some of us come in a little bit more broken than others, or even came out of the gate with problems. Um, and Keith. That's just extraordinary. It's been an extraordinary blessing to see both of these have both these individuals in my life and see them change. And both of them, all three of us, did it through working a 12-step program and honestly working the steps with guidance from a sponsor, or I wouldn't be here. Keith wouldn't be here. And I'm almost sure that
Same.
Jen probably wouldn't be here either, would you?
Yeah.
That it's all
The
built
steps
on
is what made me want to change.
exactly. And we go through the first
sure.
three. The first three are about surrender, and then it's about inventory, and then it's about allowing a higher power to change us, making whatever amends we can, and then on a daily basis, like with the 10th step, making amends when we do wrong, which I have to do all the time with poor Diana. I don't know how she lives with me. But yeah, and Jen has just changed so much, and Keith too, and so many other people. And if you stay in this program and work with people as long as I have, and the people that work with me, it can break your heart. I live 3 blocks from where there's an ambulance service, and I hear that siren go off, particularly Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You'll hear it go off. You'll start to hear the dogs howl, and it's going somewhere. And then you hear the fire department rescue team fire up. It used to be, oh, somebody's got a heart attack. Somebody's, somebody had a stroke, or somebody must have had a wreck. Now when I hear it, I think, I wonder who OD'd. Must have some fentanyl in the local supply or something. Somebody's OD'd. I used to tease Keith about it, that he spent so much time going into the light. He had frequent flyer miles. But no, I mean, I remember, tell us a story about that last OD when you woke up and you were so pissed that he was so pissed they brought him back to life.
My life had no meaning at that time. When they Narcaned me back, I was just mad that I was back in my body again, because it wasn't a comfortable place to be.
Yeah. Why would you do that? But that I so totally understand that, when you're at that point. And I'm just blessed to have people like this in my life. And the reason I tell that story, or I enjoy harassing him a little bit. He put me through so much, but but we see a lot of heartbreak. You see people come in, you see the lights come on, and hell, they might have 2-3 years they'll be working in the recovery field, and then they're out. Hey there, thanks for joining us there. Metamorphosis.
Lisa.
Hi. Yeah. She's been on the show. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thanks
for joining us. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
she's amazing.
I remember her. But,
Yeah.
It'll break your heart if you get too emotionally attached. We have to come to a point where we love the successes, like with these two wonderful people. And we learn to let God sort the results out, because it'll break your heart. Seriously, you see so many go back out, die. You see people get their families back together. They go back out. That's right. You have to get up early to go to work, don't you? We're keeping her up past her bedtime, probably.
Tom, it's a beautiful thing to watch evolution. It's a beautiful thing to see transformation taking place in someone's life. And today we just want to thank you, Keith, for showing up in this space and be very vulnerable and sharing your story. And we know that your story will help someone to take a hard look at their lives right now and say to themselves, if Keith can do it, I can do it. And to Jen, thank you so much for showing up in this space and being very vulnerable, because there are a lot of women out there who are struggling. They are struggling, and seeing you as a woman who walked through that struggle and came out on the other side very victorious. It really would help a
Thank you
woman
for
to
having
know.
me.
You're welcome. Thank
Yes.
you. And it will help a woman to know, you know what, I can do this. If Jennifer walk this path, I can do it. And it's one breath, one step at a time. There is no rush. There is no rush. One breath, one step at a time. Each day you take one step and you're getting closer. Each day when you take that step, honor that step. Honor your steps that you're taking. Because it takes a lot of effort to make those steps. It takes all of you to make those steps. And if one day that step may be a little bit crooked, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. It's quite okay. Do not be hard on yourself. And Tom, thank you for showing up for humanity, because you are saving lives. You're helping so many people to look
We love you,
inward.
Tommy.
Yeah, we all love him, You're helping individuals to look inward and realize that, you know what, there's so much more left for me. There is so much more left for me to give to the world. You're helping to ignite that switch, to turn on that bulb that is here. We all need igniters. We all need igniters that can help us.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
Yes.
But-
Beautifully said.
Igniters.
Beautifully said.
And
We do.
both these, I'm so grateful to you, Jen and Keith, for coming on here. We literally picked Keith's pocket because he normally works until dark on the weekend. He works in a family business, and then he works until it's dark at night almost every night of the week, and his weekends, except when he needs to do something with his lady. And he would normally be working right now and probably just maybe starting home. So
Thank you, Keith.
he walked away from work, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate Jen. Her time with her family and her weekends are important, and I appreciate her coming on.
Yeah, we thank you.
And
Thank
for
you
being,
for saying that, Tommy. But you know what? What they're doing right now is a work of service.
Yeah.
it is. Thank
It's
you.
a work of service. Because someone listening to both of them this evening, along with you, Tommy, you're changing lives. So it's a work of service. And we all are a work of service. Each space that we step into, we're serving somebody. Somebody's looking at us, how we're showing up. So when you show up at your best, and be authentic when you show up. Be authentic when you show up. Be authentic. And we just want to thank everyone for joining us today and taking the time and sitting with us, because we appreciate your time on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the other platforms. We really appreciate you taking the time and sitting with us today, because we know that someone who's going to listen to this live or listen on the replay, it will make a difference in your life. Or you may know someone who's struggling with their life. Just share this podcast with them, because there's a lot of tips give out here this evening. A lot of tips. And we appreciate you. Go ahead, Tommy.
I was just going to say, there are I don't care how wealthy your family is. I don't care how there's almost no one who's not touched by addiction and alcoholism
Absolutely.
and substance abuse in their families. My family has it and generational, but it's almost touches everyone. I don't care what level of society you're from,
Yes.
how educated your family is,
Yes.
how moral, like the religious, Keith's whole family is just the salt of the earth here. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Totally true.
it touches almost everyone.
Yes. So true.
That's why I appreciate what both of these folks are doing. And also hang out for a minute. They're going to go through their thing, but hang out for a minute before when
Yes.
we go off, and we need to go off here pretty soon.
Thank you,
We're over
Tommy.
time.
Thank you, Tommy. And we just want to thank all the individuals who joined Bloom Again, Tea Talk and Transformation, because we are seeing lives are being transformed in that space. And it's a beautiful thing when you look at someone, when they share their story, and when they could come back and say, you know what, I had a pivotal moment and my life has changed. You know that you're helping humanity. So we just want to thank each and every one of you. If you want to get in contact with us, just reach out to Joan and I and be a part of that space, because a lot of empowerment and transformation is happening in that space. And again, we just want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time and sitting with us this evening. But before I go, I just want to leave one question. If you viewed your current setback not as a sign that you are failing, but as a mandatory assignment to reclaim your alignment, what is the very first thing you need to step away from today? If you viewed your current setback not as a sign that you are failing, but as a mandatory assignment to reclaim your alignment, what is the very first thing you need to step away from today? Because many times we got to step away from certain things in order for us to really see where we're going. We got to clear away that fog. We got to clear away that debris. And sometimes it means friendships. It means friendships as well. So sit with that question for the week. See you guys here on Wednesday. Love each and every one of you. Keith and Jen, Tom, thank you so much for taking part in this podcast this evening. Love you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.